Welcome back to the History of Rock Remix Edition, talking about The Nightmare Before Christmas. His name is Shim, he's the rock star.
His name is Brandon, he's the DJ. Class is in session.
So I posed the question up on my YouTube. I put up a poll. Is The Nightmare Before Christmas a Halloween or a Christmas movie? We're going to get to those results here momentarily, but we got a lot of different things to unpack for this movie. A lot of this information does come from the Netflix special, The Movies That Made Us, and then obviously other sources as well. Have you ever watched The Movies That Made Us? Because they're awesome. I love them. Absolutely love them.
I'm always so bummed when I get to the end of the series and I'm like, there's no more?
Yeah.
That means it's really good.
Because there's only like 4 to 5 episodes per season, but there's one about The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now here's what I found. It had a limited release on October 13th, 1993. And then it had the full United States release on October 29th, 1993. So it lined up as a Halloween movie because it was released right during Halloween season. So when I first wrote the show notes for this, at the time there was about 1,400 votes. 70% of those votes were in line with saying it's a Halloween movie, not a Christmas movie. Now we're a few days later. We have even more votes at this point. How much do you think that's changed? 70% said Halloween.
I don't think it'd change at all. Why would it change?
It did not.
Yeah.
70% of people think it's a Halloween movie. What do you think?
I think 70% of people are right. It is a Halloween movie. And the other 30% is, you're entitled to your opinion, you're just wrong.
The movie literally takes place after Halloween, and the whole movie's about building up to Christmas.
You just said it. It happens after Halloween. Halloween movie.
Building up to Christmas. Okay. Like Christmas happens in the movie.
Here's why. Santa Claus is not the main protagonist. Santa Claus, every Christmas movie, Santa Claus and Christmas, Santa Claus is in there. Santa Claus is not the main protagonist. And it'd be different if it was a little kid looking for Santa. The main protagonist is the king of Halloween Town. That makes it a fucking Halloween movie.
Who does he want to be?
He wants to be Santa Claus, but he comes. What? That doesn't make it a fucking Christmas movie.
Yes, it's a Christmas movie.
So you're the 30%. Is that correct?
Yeah, and 30% is right.
No. Also, by the way, hey, fucking check this. If it was a fucking Christmas movie, the poster would be Christmas stuff. Instead, it's Jack, nothing but Halloween stuff. The whole poster's black and white. It starts with Nightmare. Like, give me it's a Halloween movie.
Say the full title for me.
Nightmare Before Christmas. Fine, Christmas is in the title. Just because it doesn't need to be what? So, like Halloween is the only Halloween movie. Like, give me a fucking break.
Christmas is in the title. Now, if it was like Michael Myers on Christmas, then it's a Christmas movie. The whole build-up to Christmas. No,
I'd still call it okay. No, it's not okay. So
I pulled a few.
The 70% stayed, right? 70% stayed. It's a Halloween movie, right? That means it's fucking right.
70% of people are wrong. So here are some of the comments that people made on the poll. Basically, the entire plot is about Christmas, and Halloween ends the first few minutes of the movie. Definitely a Christmas movie. That came from Patrick Negrant. Courtney says they're preparing for Christmas nearly the entire movie. Mega Man DBZX says it's an Easter movie since Oogie's boys kidnapped the Easter Bunny.
That's good. I like that.
And then Lich King, who's spelled backwards, says it's a Thanksgiving movie since most of the film takes place between Halloween and Christmas.
That is actually the most logical comment we've gotten so far. That's actually that's fair. That's fair. No one's noticed that.
Almost the most sense. So in regards to the poll, Danny Elfman, that's the film's composer. He did the score. He's also the singing voice of Jack Skellington. He said that it's obviously about Christmas, but for him, it's a Halloween movie. And then during a Q&A with Colorado's Telluride Horror Show Film Festival, Henry Selick, who's the actual director, he said that it's a Halloween movie.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. And also, just a final point, the music is totally Halloween-y. It's super Halloween. It's all minor key. It's all about wanting to get out of Halloween. Fair enough. But that means that they're stuck in Halloween. It's Halloween movie. Halloween all the way. Halloween.
I do love how Halloweeny as a word is great.
Halloweeny. In case you didn't know, Tim Burton was not the director of Nightmare Before Christmas. It was Henry Selick, who also directed James and the Giant Peach and one of my personal favorite movies of all time, Coraline.
Yeah, so Burton was unable to direct the movie because he was busy filming Batman Returns. This was at like the height of Tim Burton because the first Batman that he did with Michael Keaton had come out and it was just a smash hit. So they locked him in for Batman Returns, and he wanted to go back and revisit Nightmare Before Christmas. So Batman was filming down in Los Angeles while Nightmare Before Christmas was filming up in San Francisco. Burton would travel frequently between the two to check in on Nightmare. And there was one time he even became so upset at something, he kicked a hole in the wall. And that's something that we'll get to towards the end of this episode of what upset him. And then eventually what they also did with that hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And it did not become a glory hole.
Oh, fuck, it had to go there. The movie began, which I think is I love the story of how this movie came to pass. It began as a poem that was written by Tim Burton when he was an animator for Disney. So it came from a really artistic place from the beginning.
There is a hilarious clip in the episode of The Movies That Made Us where they talk about Tim Burton and they keep talking about sort of like how awkward and weird he was. And they just repeat that phrase, and it just shows this picture of him, and you could tell that if you were ever walking through the Disney animator building, it's like, granted, they're all probably weird on their own level, but you could tell Tim Burton was probably just a completely different kind of weird.
Yeah.
So he had pitched the poem as a stop motion feature back in 1983 to Disney, but it just happened to not work out that time.
That's, I wonder, just a poem. I wonder why they didn't just pick it up straight away. The original poem had only 3 characters: Jack Skellington, Zero, and Santa Claus.
So the songs were actually written before the script, because if you think about it, it only started with a poem. So they had to build the movie around that. And all the songs were written before the script, and we'll get to why here in a minute. Danny Elfman said, quote, "Tim would show me sketches and drawings, and he would tell me the story, describe it in bits of phrases and words, and I would say, yeah, I got it. 3 days later, I had a song."
That's nice. That must be a nice way to work. The screenplay of the original movie was quite the roller coaster. Originally, Elfman's girlfriend at the time, Carolina Thompson, was hoping to be brought on as a writer because she had written Edward Scissorhands for Tim Burton. Instead, Burton went with Michael McDowell, who had written Beetlejuice. Thompson believed it was because she actually talked to the actors about their roles while filming Edward Scissorhands was the reason why Burton did not choose her.
She brings that up in the episode of The Movies That Made Us. And there's a typo too. It's Carolyn.
Did she seem bitter?
She didn't seem bitter because, as we'll find out, she ultimately gets the role. Like, she gets the job as the writer. But she makes the comment that some of the actors during Edward Scissorhands were very confused. You know, what's my character's motivation? What am I doing here? What's the point of the scene? And they would come talk to her, and she would respond. And she's like, I didn't realize that's not something you were supposed to do. So she assumed that was why Burton did not originally go with her. Who they went with was, I left out his damn, Michael McDowell, who he had previously worked with, like you said, on Beetlejuice. So this ended up being a bad decision because McDowell didn't write a whole lot for the movie. So he just took the songs that Elfman had written for Jack and turned those into dialogue. And this ended up causing massive delays in the filming and the production. And eventually McDowell was fired and Thompson was then brought in to write. And they allude to that McDowell kind of took the signing bonus that he got to write the movie and then just went and bought a bunch of drugs and never wrote it. They allude to it. They don't flat out come and say he spent the whole thing, up his nose, but they certainly allude to that being the case.
This next thing I've always found really interesting. Elfman was originally going to be the speaking voice of Jack, but according to the director, Henry Selick, it just wasn't up to his level of singing. So they brought in Chris Sarandon, a.k.a. Prince Humperdinck, from The Princess Bride.
Prince Humperdinck!
So that's, which I think is funny.
Elfman it didn't sit well with him that he was not going to be the speaking voice as well as the singing voice. He has described it that he wrote a lot of the songs almost in a play, like from a personal level, like they were coming
felt very
from him
connected
himself.
to the character. He felt very connected, yeah.
And he was really hoping that he was going to be able to play Jack Skellington as a speaking voice, and it didn't work out that way. So it didn't sit well with him. And then Selleck ended up saying, quote, Tim and Danny have mended fences over the years, but it really upset Danny when I had to replace his speaking voice, and I had to go to Tim to do it. Dan and Tim's relationship is very weird, unquote. And then obviously things have at least been on the professional level between the two because they've worked on multiple projects since then. So, with Danny Elfman, when it's come to the stuff that he's worked on, he came from Oingo Boingo. He didn't write movie scores. He didn't do any of this stuff. And
this is one of his first things, right?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the earlier.
Yeah.
And I mean, like he'd worked on Beetlejuice and stuff like that. Yeah. And it really, he's kind of like when you think of movie scores or you think of people who write for TV shows or movies, like Danny Elfman's towards the top of the list.
Yeah, yeah. This is funny when you wrote this. I remember when I watched The Nightmare Before Christmas. Maybe it's because I'm an artist, but I remember watching Oogie Boogie, thinking that must have Oogie Boogie. Oogie Boogie.
Okay.
I remember watching and seeing Oogie Boogie and being like, that must have been a nightmare to animate. And it literally is. Oogie Boogie was a pain in the ass to animate because he is so shapeless. It took the animators 4 months to get the killer shots of when Oogie Boogie pulls his skin off and he is filled with bugs. And it's if you haven't seen the movie, it is really well done. It is eerie and seamless and dope.
Yeah, I'm assuming that anybody who is watching this has seen Nightmare Before Christmas, but if anybody has stumbled on it and you're still here and you're still interested, go watch the movie and check out. So the thing that I put up here, that is Nightmare Revisited. That's the album that they did. Other direction. There you go. That's the album that they did where it's got Marilyn Manson's version of This Is Halloween, and then it also has Korn doing Sandy Claus. I friggin' love it. If you go on YouTube, you can watch, somebody has taken those versions of the songs and put them into the movie. So as you have the 3 kids getting ready to kidnap Sandy Claus, and it's the song from the movie, they've replaced it with Korn's version. It's so good.
That's cool.
It's so stinking good. So with the movie in general, it was a massive undertaking. It took 3.5 years to make, and the stop motion team worked on it for about 18 months, and at its peak, it had about 120 people working on it.
Because Tim Burton's art style is so distinct, it appears as if Jack Skellington has appeared in multiple other movies, including Beetlejuice. Were there ever Easter eggs where he sort of put Jack Skellington in the back of something later on?
If anybody knows for a fact, please comment below and let us know, because I found a couple of articles. It's like Jack Skellington was in this movie or this movie or this movie. And he has such a distinct style. If you look at Jack Skellington, it's a skull, essentially.
Yeah.
And there's been a few different places where that has popped up in Tim Burton movies. Now, is he doing it specifically as this is Jack Skellington, or is he just doing it because that's his art style? That I haven't been able to find an answer to.
Yeah.
But the Pumpkin King's suit was originally supposed to be all black. But the problem is the whole movie is super dark. So it was
because it's a fucking Halloween movie.
It's not. It's a Christmas movie. So in order to contrast him with the stuff that's around him, they added the white stripes, the pinstripes.
And at the end of the movie, when the vampires were playing hockey, they hit the puck at a pumpkin. Originally, that was going to be Tim Burton's head, but one of the producers told Selleck that Burton probably wouldn't like it. So Selleck replaced it with a pumpkin, and to this day says that he is upset that he didn't just ask Burton if it would have been okay.
Like he changed it without even asking him.
Yeah, I would have asked. I would have been like, listen, we were going to do this thing with your head, but we changed it to a pumpkin.
Are you cool with it?
You wouldn't like that. No, you do the thing where, because you can tell. You'd be like, hey, we had this crazy idea, but don't worry, we're going to go with the pumpkin. We would never do that. And if Tim Burton was to be like, oh, that would have been cool, then you can go, well, we haven't really done it yet. I'm glad you said that. We can
still do it. Yeah.
There's a million ways to go about it. It's fucking...
Because it's... Tim Burton can be, I guess, a bit of a pain to deal with sometimes, because Selleck had pitched a different ending for the movie where Dr. Finkelstein is the one inside Oogie Boogie the whole time. Like, they storyboarded this idea where Oogie Boogie gets unzipped and then he wheels out in his little scooter. And this sent Tim Burton through the roof, and this is why he kicked the hole in the wall at the studio up in San Francisco. So he put his boot through it.
That's what he does. Yeah.
Somebody had asked him, like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's a steel-toed boot. Like, I'm all good." And so it sat there, and then somebody went through and they wrote, "Tim kicked a hole here," and they put an arrow to the hole. And then eventually, I believe somebody cut out that part of the sheetrock, and then they framed the hole. And I want to know where that is now.
Yeah.
I would love to know who has that hole, because that would sell for a bunch of money.
Yeah, there's probably some hardcore fanatical Nightmare Before Christmas fan that paid tens of thousands of dollars for that stupid bit of plaster. There was apparently going to be a Nightmare Before Christmas ride at Disney, which would have been so great. But instead, they now converted the Haunted Mansion during the holiday time starting in September. Yeah, I think it would have been better if they'd done Nightmare Before Christmas. It'd attract a lot more people.
Nah, see, I kind of like how they do that with Haunted Mansion, because it keeps the Haunted Mansion fresh, depending on which time of year you're going there. If you're there during the summer, it's just your standard Haunted Mansion that you've grown up to love. But then if you're there during the wintertime or fall into wintertime, you're going to get the really cool, because that's when we were just in Disney a couple of weeks ago. It was one of those situations where that's one of the longest wait times, because when they add all the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff, that's when the line gets really, really lengthy. Now, the official soundtrack for the film...
Wait a second. Wait. When did they add the Nightmare Before Christmas stuff? When did they add that?
When did they? I don't know. I'll have to look that up.
Did they add it at Christmas time, or did they add it during the Halloween season?
Well, they add it throughout the whole season, and it ends at
Which
Christmas.
Season?
Do they
Which
keep?
Season?
Wait, do they take it down before Christmas?
Do they?
No, they keep it up.
Well, but do they start it at fucking Halloween? Did they start it on Halloween?
Well, they technically start it in September, but I can also find Christmas decorations in the stores in September.
Oh my God! Just concede the point.
No, it's Nightmare Before Christmas, for God's sake.
Okay, go ahead.
So the official soundtrack for the film, it has an epilogue, and it's one where Santa visits Jack years later, and Jack has become a father. Now, despite this potential storyline, Burton, he said, he doesn't want a sequel. He just wants to leave it as is. And he even made a comment earlier that he's pissed at Disney. I think he's pretty much done with Disney. Like, he doesn't like how things are going. This was a bit of news that just dropped within this past week, is that he doesn't like how things are going. And quite frankly, I posed this question to some of my friends over the past month. When was the last good Tim Burton movie?
Yeah, no, it has been a while. And I know I can understand why a lot of people would be pissed off with Disney. The Scarlett Johansson thing from last year was the first red flag, where it was like they're getting really big, like one of the biggest companies in the world, and they don't need to do anything right by the artists that work for them, because they own everything now and they can just make whatever the fuck they want. So like Johnny Depp, fuck him. Tim Burton, fuck him. Scarlett Johansson, fuck her. Like, doesn't matter. So artists, no, seriously, like artists are going to be like, dude, fuck you.
Well,
there's lots of companies
and then if the good ones stop working with them, they're going to have to figure something out.
Yeah, like Mandalorian was good because the team that worked on it was stellar. You take out all the key players, fucking Mandalorian's not Mandalorian anymore. So the movie was going to be released under the Walt Disney label, but the studio felt that originally it was too scary for kids. So, because it's a Halloween movie. So they released it under Touchstone. And to ride the success Burton was having with Batman, it was dubbed Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas.
I'm sorry, Nightmare Before what?
Nightmare Before Christmas.
I found the article right here. So Tim Burton has said that he's done making Disney movies. It's a horrible big circus. And he did the Dumbo movie. I went and saw that with my family in the theater, and it sucked. Like, Dumbo's already a pretty sad movie. You know, when he gets torn away from his mom, the scene where he gets drunk, like, that's a weird movie. And having Tim Burton do that was like, ugh, like, my God.
You know, I realized, sidebar, I realized how fucked up a lot of these Disney movies are when I watched one of them and the parents die right at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Of every Disney movie.
Well,
and I think I told you this in a couple of podcasts ago. My kid came in and was like, "Hey, Daddy, can we play a game?" I was like, "Sure, whatever."
Oh, yeah.
He said, "Let's pretend that my parents are dead and I've come and I'm on your doorstep and I'm lost." And I was like, oh, you're not taking the story from Disney. You're not taking the hero wins the day. You're taking the
beginning.
People are relevant when their parents are fucking dead. And like, it's fucked up. I didn't realize how bad, like, and they don't understand. It's like, yeah, losing your parents is cool.
Oh, no, it's not cool. All right, so I've got right here, I have Tim Burton's, his entire filmography. The last movie he made was Dumbo, which was 2019. So he went on a run where he had Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 1985, Beetlejuice in 88, Batman in 89, Edward Scissorhands in 90, Batman Returns in 92, Ed Wood in 94, Mars Attacks in 95. I'm sorry, 96.
Yeah.
And then Sleepy Hollow in 99. I never actually saw Sleepy Hollow.
Me neither.
And then Planet of the Apes in 01, which I heard was not good. And then like Big Fish in 2003 and so on and so forth. I mean, and it's been a while since he's had even just a decent...
The last thing that I heard was Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory. That was like 10 years ago. The last thing that I loved was Sweeney Todd. Sweeney Todd was
07.
So
and what was the one that you just mentioned?
Willy Wonka.
Oh, that was
like
17 years ago. That was 2005.
Oh, so it was before.
And that wasn't even that good. I mean, but you know...
No, Willy Wonka wasn't good.
That original one was... You're not going to outdo Gene Wilder.
So,
in 2006, the movie was reissued under the Walt Disney banner. As you had mentioned, it was originally under Touchstone. And it was re-released in 3D conversion. Because remember, back then, that was when every movie had to have a 3D conversion. I went and saw Star Wars Phantom Menace in the goddamn theater because they released it in 3D. And I hate Jar Jar Binks in 3D.
So, I'm going to tell you a story now. This is what I've been waiting to tell you.
Ooh.
The first and last time that I ever watched Nightmare Before Christmas in the cinema was in New York City. I was there with my girl, who's now my wife, and we were like, we're going to go to New York City and we had 3 days there and we're going to do the touristy shit. And Nightmare Before Christmas was on in Times Square, and I'm like, we have to. And I was like, we have to get stoned and we have to go and watch Nightmare Before Christmas. So I found a friend of mine who was a stoner. And I was like, yo, can you hook us up? We just need enough for one night. And so, because we really don't do it. It's not my thing usually. And so he gave us, and we'd never had it before, CBD oil.
Yeah.
That was really,
oh, snap. Was it super highly potent?
Strong. And we took way too much of it as well because we had no idea. So we took it in the hotel room and then started walking to Nightmare Before Christmas. And we were like, dude, I don't feel very good. I'm like starting to, like, I'm really stoned. And then we were just like, let's just get to the cinema and just sit down and be in a dark room and then we'll be fine. And we sat down, and as soon as the movie started, it was the worst experience of my life. And she was there holding on to me like, she told me hours later, she was like, I just felt like the seat had just, I was Velcroed to the seat. I couldn't fucking move. Oh. And for the whole movie, I was just there getting smashed with these images and music. Like, it was horrible.
Damn.
Horrible experience. So that was the first and last time I saw, and it was in 3D. We watched it in 3D.
So the original movie didn't really do all that great in the theater, and it kind of just went away. Like a lot of people had forgotten about it. And then it was around 2004, 2005, before this reissue, where they noticed, I think they were over in Japan, some of the people who made the movie, and there was Jack Skellington, and there was Zero, and there was Sally, and there's these figurines, and it was like, what's going on here? And then it had cult following that really brought it back to life. And that was really what sort of brought this back into sort of the mainstream. And I remember the first thing that really stood out to me was Corey Taylor wearing a Jack Skellington skull cap. It was when Stone Sour... No, when Stone Sour had released an album, and there was a picture of him in a Jack Skellington like ski cap.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. And I was like, wait, that's Disney. Because then it was right around that same time where I went to Disneyland. And I was like, Corey Taylor's rocking Disney gear.
Yeah,
like it blew my mind. I mean, that's something different, but...
I remember I had a newfound respect for Corey Taylor when Christy in the Hollywood Rebellion, Christy actually told me she used to kick around with him very early on. And he used to be a big Rocky Horror Show fan. Like, he was into the theatrical stuff.
Like he's doing the time warp again?
Yeah, like all that sort of stuff. Like, he's always been into... I would love to hang out. The only time I hung out with him, I was really more nervous than anything, so I wasn't cool. But if I'd known that now and been like, yo, let's talk about Rocky Horror Show and Jack Skellington and fucking figurines and shit, and it'd be a much better conversation. So,
The one time I hung out with him, I had a great time. He poured me a Jack and Coke it was Jack Daniels and Coke. Yeah, just a little bit of splash of Coca-Cola. So, all right, that's going to do it for your Nightmare Before Christmas. So we're going to move on to a few polls here, all wrapped around Halloween time. Mm-hmm. So the first one that I put up was, which TV show has or had the best Halloween episode? So I gave 3 options. Roseanne, Home Improvement, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because that was... Did you ever watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Nah.
This was when they would do their heist episodes, and they're brilliantly done. Because they're all wrapped around Halloween, except for one where they even kind of call out to it. It's great. And then, of course, I put others for people to write in. The one for me that I remember the most was Roseanne. Mm-hmm. Except there's one other show that got a ton of write-in votes. Mm-hmm. The Simpsons.
Yeah, I would have picked The Simpsons.
Because I left that off for a reason, because Treehouse of Horror was brilliant. Yeah. But just like The Simpsons now, it's like,
What do you mean? No, The Simpsons, those episodes were the classics. And
the new ones. The new ones.
Oh, the new ones.
No, those old ones, I still watch every Halloween season. I will watch those every single time. But it's just, it's kind of like now where it's like, is this really that good? And it's like, no, actually, it's not.
Honestly, I forgot that they were still doing them. I figured they stopped after season 7 and 8 when I stopped watching because the world revolves around me.
Well, no, but there's one thing that happened at Fox that I think really affected people's love of Treehouse of Horrors, and B, got a lot of people to forget about it. They signed on. They have the World Series. World Series is about to happen this Friday. Fox, the network, Fox.
Right.
So what they would do is there was almost always a World Series game on the Sunday night that The Simpsons would air. So rather than running it early when people are still thinking about Halloween, it wouldn't air until the middle of November. And who cares about Treehouse of Horrors on November 14th?
Yeah.
So that was something that always bugged me. It was like, whoever the hell is doing the programming at Fox, you are royally screwing the pooch on this thing. Simpsons got a lot of write-in votes. And then there's a few others that I think are worth mentioning. Community has really brilliant Halloween episodes, and Modern Family. Modern Family would always go big when it came to the Halloween episode. So according to the poll, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, as I'm sitting here, has 42%. And then something else is coming in at 32%, where I think most of people are voting for The Simpsons. And then, of course, you have Home Improvement at 17 and Roseanne at 9.
Nice. Beautiful.
Next poll was, what's the best thing about Halloween? The costumes, the candy, the parties, or other? What do you think is coming in at number 1?
I think it's the costumes.
Yeah, 47% of people say it's the
I've
costumes.
met some people, dude, like my old sound guy, Kevin, who I love dearly. But it's like you meet a person and you're like, oh, you're into Dungeons and Dragons, or oh, you're into crypto. And then you find out like, oh, you're into Halloween, like you spend 2 days painting your face perfectly and sleeping in it and looking like you're a different fucking person on Halloween night. And then you just wash it off and get back to living life. Like people get crazy into it.
Yeah, there was a huge Halloween costume contest that was down in Florida. It was at Shooters, which was a bar that was right on the Intercoastal. And there were people, it was, I think it was a $10,000 prize to the winner of this contest. And there were people that went all out. And it was, they would block off the street in front of the bar. It was a badass party. I don't know if they do it anymore, but it was awesome. Right. So costumes coming in at 47%, candy at 28%, the parties at 16%. And then when it comes to the other stuff, you know, people just mentioned a few different things here. Seth Cressy wrote something else, Sex in a Cemetery.
That's a bit weird. It's strange, isn't it?
Walter White, not Walter, but Walter White just responded with, the fuck? Like, what are you talking about, man? Jacob Davis said, it's more of a time where I get to hang out with my friends being complete goofballs because everyone is out having fun.
Well, Jacob, that's a very wholesome way to look at it, isn't it? Thank you,
then Greg Rutherford said, the decorations. I still haven't posted a picture of what our house looks like. I usually post a picture of what our house looks like during Halloween. Mm-hmm. This year I haven't done it, and I'm not going to do it because Halloween's basically here. As we put up I would do silhouettes on our front windows. I would draw them and then cut them out, and then we would backlight them. And so I've done everything from Nightmare Before Christmas. I did one that was Jack Skellington with Oogie Boogie. It was really cool. I did another one that had Chernabog, which the tattoo that I have on my left arm, which is the big demon that comes out of the monster in Fantasia. And then I did the 3 hitchhiking ghosts from the Haunted Mansion. That's probably that's arguably my favorite one, but my whole thing was I would make it out of simple black butcher paper and it would just get torn down. Because my whole thing was I got to create something new next year. I don't want to redo this. Or I want to redo this. I don't want to recycle the same idea. And then a couple of years ago, I finally said, you know what? I need to recycle the same idea because I don't have this amount of time. So the one that we've kept, we didn't put them up this year though, is 2 of the scenes from the stretching elevator in the Haunted Mansion ride. You know, when you're either going down in Disneyland or you're staying still in Disney World, it's those scenes. It's the girl balancing over the alligator and and then another one's like a lady holding like an axe or something like that, I think is what it was. So then the final poll, what's the best Halloween candy of all time? This one's going to be decisive. I only put up 3 options: Snickers, M&M's, Starburst, or other.
Did people get really, really conflicted about this?
Oddly conflicted and oddly angry about a question about goddamn candy.
Okay. What did you say?
Honestly, my favorite wasn't even one of the options. Mine would have been Reese's. Mine would have been Reese's peanut butter cups.
Dude, same. Literally, yeah. I was gonna say, like, that's really the go-to. Like those little cute little motherfuckers that you put in the bags and shit. Yeah, it's awesome. A little bite size. Yeah.
All right,
that's Halloween.
All right, so that's gonna do it. For this episode. Again, if you want to get in on these polls, make sure that you're liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel. If you're listening over on Apple or Google, or if you're watching on Spotify, make sure you head to @TheRealBrandalorian over on YouTube. Also, make sure you check out Shim on YouTube @ShimonMoore is where you can check out his stuff. He's got a bunch of cool covers and things that he's been doing over there. So you can get in on those polls. You can get voting. I drop 2 shorts a day, which is great. Mishmash of different topics and things like that that I'm posting over there as well. What would you like to talk about, Shim, for this final 60 seconds?
No, I think we need to do. Oh, by the way, I can't hear the music, so you're just gonna have to cue me with the whole thing.
Oh,
yeah. But don't worry about it. So, no, man, I'm happy. I'm happy that you're happy. I'm happy that people are even paying attention to what the fuck we're doing. Most importantly, and I'm happy that your socials are blowing up continually. And No, man, I'm just happy to be alive.
Well, then I am going to fast forward here to the end of the song so we can start wrapping it up. And I'm going to see if you can hit it. Ready?
You ready?
I'm going to sing it to you.